Welcome to the Optimal Bio podcast. At Optimal Bio, we don't just balance your hormones, we balance your whole body. Our conversations range from nutrition to medicine with an emphasis on wellness tips to support your health journey. If you like what you hear, find us on the web at optimalbio.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for joining another episode of the Optimal Bio podcast. Today, I'm joined by Christian Davis, and we are talking all things heart health. Thanks for being here today.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's jump in and start with, what does the heart do in our body?
Yeah, so our heart is a little fist-sized organ on the left side for most people of the chest. There's some exceptions, but basically its main job is just to circulate blood and oxygen throughout our whole body. It is always working, never takes a break, hopefully. And it's a muscle. That's the other part that's important to know. It's a muscle, and it has blood flow to itself to be able to function. And then that blood flow is sent throughout the body. It starts on the right side of the heart. We have 4 chambers, so a little tiny anatomy, but we have 4 chambers. It goes from the right side to the lungs, which then oxygenate the blood. The blood comes back into the heart through the left side of the heart. Then our heart squeezes that blood to the rest of the body to provide oxygen to it.
So I would say it's pretty important to make sure that we have blood and oxygen throughout our entire body.
Absolutely. If we want to survive, I guess, and live, we probably need that.
I would say so. And then also within that, does that help clean out waste in our body as well?
It does. Its main job is the oxygenation of the blood through the lungs, but we have to have proper blood flow everywhere for every organ to work and be able to go to the liver to clean. Our kidneys also highly need oxygen to be able to function and do all the things it needs to do with cleaning and electrolyte balance and a million other things that they affect our blood pressure. So every single part of the body is dependent, right, on the heart giving us oxygen.
Yes. All right. Well, let's jump in then to, how we can keep our heart healthy, what happens if our heart isn't healthy, and some things that can do to keep it healthy and keep it working like it should.
Excellent. So a lot of times we hear the term cardiovascular disease, and we don't really know. A lot of people think it's just the heart, but it's a group of disorders that can be affected by it. So cardio talks about the heart, vascular, blood vessels, disease. So that includes not just your heart, but also every single blood vessel in our body, including our arteries, which are the main guys here that provide the oxygenated blood to the organs. That also includes blood flow to the brain. So you can have things like strokes, and those can happen for different reasons, but that's also part of cardiovascular disease. You can also have things like heart failure. Heart failure is a weakening of the heart muscle itself. So the heart is really cool because it has an electrical system, it has a plumbing system, and you have the actual movement of the muscles, so the mechanical part of it. And all of those things have to be right for it to work properly. And then that blood, like you said, travels through the blood vessels. And so all of those different areas have to be working properly. And so one of the things about cardiovascular disease is that it is known as the silent killer, because most people won't have any symptoms for a long time. They'll say, I'm fine, until they're not.
Yeah.
And that's in part because our body is amazing and really does so many things to try to keep us from having issues. For example, if you have some blockage buildup in your arteries to the arteries that feed the heart itself, the heart will actually build what's called collateral circulation. It builds tiny little blood vessels to supply blood flow to the area of the heart that isn't getting appropriate circulation, which is crazy, right?
So crazy.
It's amazing. And our brain does the same thing. That's why, like, people that have strokes or certain brain injuries can recover. The brain learns different pathways in which to, you know, have those same communication throughout it. So, very, very amazing. But with that, a lot of times people don't know that something is wrong. I think the most common, like, symptoms that something is wrong, and honestly, by this time, you're pretty far along, would be things like chest pain, shortness of breath, more specifically with activity that maybe you used to not have. You go up a flight of stairs and you used to go, you've been going up this flight of stairs forever, and all of a sudden you're like, right, having to breathe a little harder, dizziness, fainting, um, even anxiety, slower or changes in your heart rate or rhythm, or feeling like you're skipping a beat. It kind of like takes your breath away a little bit. You're not actually skipping a beat. It's just that the beat you're having isn't working enough to give you blood flow. We can start seeing changes in circulation. So um, the extremities are the first ones to notice just because they're further away and we technically don't need them to survive. So lowers the circulation to our extremities, so more swelling, um, pain. There's certain types of pain, like with walking, from those blood vessels constricting and not working the way they used to. Um, Changes in skin pigmentation, whether it's like flushing or paleness, numbness, all kinds of things. Um, but like I said, all of those are kind of late.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a huge amount of early ones. There are some. So, for example, in men, ED or erectile dysfunction can be an earlier sign of cardiovascular disease because, in order for both men and women to, for example, for men to get an erection or for women to become stimulated and all engorged and all those things that happen during sexual activity, you need blood flow. And blood flow starts to decrease to that area. We also have really tiny blood vessels. Those are the ones that are affected the most and earlier. And so we start seeing changes there. That's why also in the periphery, so like your feet, uh, they also don't get as much blood flow to them as we get older. All the tiny blood vessels throughout our body, like in our eyes. So a lot of people start to have vision issues because of that lack of blood flow to the eyes, the kidneys. The kidneys also regulate blood pressure. So everything is interconnected. But there's a lot of symptoms that can happen once we get further along. But in the beginning, unfortunately, it's kind of silent. And so when we are seeing people that have, for example, a heart attack or they have a stroke, or they're having these bad things happen, this isn't something that just happened over the last year, right? We're talking years, probably 20 or so years before what has been happening along the way. And so there's a lot of things that we can do. Obviously, for us, we focus on hormones. They are huge. They are crazy. It's the effects of lack of hormones are are pretty bad.
Yeah, I
So,
don't think people realize when you're talking about cardiovascular disease, it's the number one killer in women. And no, I bet if you polled most people, they may say breast cancer or something that we see all the time, but it's heart disease.
yeah, and I think like especially like women, we think like breast cancer, but more women over the age of 40 die of heart disease than breast cancer. 4 times as many women. So it's crazy. It's a lot, and we don't talk about it enough. It is the main one of the main killers out there. So we should definitely talk about it and not wait until it's already happened.
Correct. Because like what you're about to, dive into, a lot of it can be prevented. And like you said, heart attacks don't just happen. So starting early to protect your heart, there's many things that we can do.
Exactly. And one of those things is, excuse me, inflammation. So inflammation, now we know inflammation is really the base for every single chronic disease. Um, and again, they're all interconnected. Like we can't think of one thing without thinking of other stuff. Like everything in our body is interconnected. Everything affects each other. So from, you know, stress, things, learning how to manage stress. We all have stress. If you don't have stress, please call me.
Yeah,
Tell me your secret.
right. Yeah.
Um,
What do you do? What does your
exactly.
day look like?
Like, what is this? But we all have stress. It's how do we manage that stress, right? How do we allow it to affect us? Are we allowing the stress to keep us from sleeping, to either eating things that we shouldn't eat, or overeating, or undereating, right? Both of them are bad. We need food. So it's learning how to manage those things like stress. How's your sleep? I think that's a very underrated thing that we can do, and everyone does, and should do. That also impacts every single aspect, from your blood sugar to your hormones to your cardiovascular risk. So if you're not sleeping well, like, why not, right? Like, what's going on? What can you do to help with better quality sleep? Yeah, there's situational things like, right, if you just had a baby that wakes up every 2 to 3 hours, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. However, um, trying to, either talk with your partner, or like trying to figure out how to fix, your help with your sleep, taking naps when the baby takes naps, right? Like not letting ourselves just be overwhelmed by the stress and putting extra stress on ourselves that, well, no, I have to clean XYZ. I have to do all these things in that little span of time where the baby's napping. It's like, no, you got to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of the baby if you're not there? Right? So, and it's easier said than done, absolutely. But it's something we have to keep telling ourselves, just like with sleep, right? It's easier said than done. But we have to keep reminding ourselves of these things over and over again, and make them habit and make them be important to us. Because if not, it's really easy to just say, it's fine, whatever.
I exactly. I think understanding the why behind it or the importance helps so much because especially like with sleep, I used to be someone that could be a night owl, stay up and be fine the next day. But then once I understood the importance of sleep, I'm like, okay, 8 o'clock in bed because of like, wait, that's the only time that your body and your brain can heal. I'm like, absolutely, I'm getting in bed.
That's also when you're making your testosterone. We love our testosterone. It's anti-inflammatory, but you make most of your testosterone when you're sleeping, specifically in deep sleep. And so if you're not sleeping, you're not making testosterone. If you're not making enough testosterone, it's going to be harder to get into deep sleep, so on and so forth, right? The other things that go along with that lack of sleep is that when you're sleeping and making all this wonderful testosterone, the testosterone actually helps balance your cortisol. Your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, should be really low at bedtime. You shouldn't have high cortisol. Um, but if you're not sleeping and you're not making testosterone, your cortisol starts to creep up at nighttime. So, what does that mean for your body? That means that also your blood pressure is creeping up, your heart rate's creeping up, your blood sugar, your insulin, your metabolism is slowing down, right? All of those things, which increase the risk of cardiovascular disease in the future as well. So, just by sleeping well, we see improvements in that testosterone, in that cortisol, which overall will help with heart rate, blood pressure, insulin, blood sugar, our natural metabolism. So incredibly important. That's also when our brain is literally cleaning itself.
Yeah.
It's really crazy to think, but it does. It cleans itself at nighttime. It's able to detox. Same things are happening in places like our liver and our kidneys. That's like their slow time. That's their time to just clean up house before chaos starts again in the morning. And we're just like bam, 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 bam. But we have to give it that opportunity to clean itself and do all of those things. We talked about testosterone helping with inflammation, and inflammation just being the drive for all of this, right? And there's so many things out there that cause inflammation. Very overwhelming if you really think of every single thing. But focusing on like, what can I do right now? Not just for me, but also like for those around me, though, right? My family. And if you involve the people that you love, the people that you live with, your ability to decrease that inflammation becomes easier because they're involved in it too. So they're going to help contribute to that, right? If you try to do it all by yourself, it's really hard. So trying to make it a family event, right? Like, and that can be from adjusting, for example, right before bedtime, like, or not right before bedtime, but in the evening. Okay, we're going to turn off the bright lights, right? Maybe just have a little mood lamp in the corner, make it fun, right? Like make it like, maybe have some of those like fake candles to give you some mood lighting. That can be nice. Like, but all of those things help your body start to slow down. Brain starts to know, okay, we're getting closer to bedtime. Maybe going on a walk in the evening and seeing the sunset. That also helps set our circadian rhythm, helps reduce our stress. There were some studies talking about how walking with your partner is huge, not just because you're walking, and that's great, but you actually get to talk and like putting the cell phone away, right? That can be the only time couples get to talk in a day, right? Because you're working, you're doing this, you're fixing dinner, you're doing life. But during those little walks, it could be 10, 15 minutes. Like that's your time to just talk and, hey, how's your day? Hey, bring up any conversations that you need to. All of that will help with not your sleep, but also decreasing inflammation and stressing your body will help with all of those things. So little things like that really do make a difference in the long run. Our food, right? Our food is very important. We need it for nutrition. We have to have it to live. your, your body is like the most efficient car ever, right? We expect this car, this vessel to run for many, many, many years. And every time it gets a little bit longer, right?
Yep.
But we can't expect it to run properly if we're just feeding it trash, right? And a lot of times your body will tell you what that means. Body's great at that.
Your body's telling you, we just have to listen.
Exactly. That's the hard part. We're so good at ignoring it. Like, oh, I know I feel bloated or gassy or like just not good. Or I just feel like I just need a nap after eating. Like, that's not normal.
That's not normal. Exactly. Food is supposed to fuel you. Yes.
Yeah. Why am I not getting energy from this? And it's like the opposite, right? So, listening to your body, see what it's telling you. Everyone's different, right? Like, so you have to listen to your body. And then if you feel like, okay, I think I'm doing all the right things, but I don't feel well, then finding some help. There are different options out there. There are different providers. Like we have the wellness program. Britt, she's wonderful. She's a registered dietitian, and she can help you focus on gut health. She does stool testing, all kinds of neat stuff, looking at different types of bacteria because the gut is wonderful. But it has to have the right balance, just like everything else. So you can have too much bacteria, you can have not enough bacteria, you can have yeast, you can have parasites, you can have all kinds of issues with your gut, right?
Which then goes back to your inflammation and increasing your inflammation.
Exactly. It's all interconnected. Or like your gut makes most of your serotonin.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling depressed and like, oh, why do I feel so down? What's going on with your gut, right? Like it's all
exactly. And 70% of your immune system. So if you're always getting sick, it's like, what are you eating?
Exactly. Yes. Our skin will reflect your gut health as well.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Your gut health really can't hide.
No. It will let you know. It is like, I am here.
Yes.
Listen to me one way or another. And it will, yeah. So all of those things, exercise, of course.
Yes.
Moving your body every day, whether that's going on a walk daily and then maybe doing whatever kind of exercise you find brings you joy, right? Some people love, going to the gym and doing heavy weights. That's great. Some people like doing Pilates, and that's great too. Whatever that is that you enjoy doing. Some people like HIIT exercise, whatever you're going to do and continue doing and getting into that routine. Because if you force yourself to do something that you don't like doing, you're not going to stick with it. You might stick with it for maybe a couple of weeks and then that's it. So you have to really find whatever makes you happy and makes you feel good.
And understanding the importance of movement and working out, it's so vital to your health, especially heart health.
And it's hard to move, right? Like before, like back in the day, it was easy, right? No one had cars. You were walking everywhere. You were carrying your groceries, even like grocery shopping, right? You were walking to the grocery store, walking with your groceries back home. After a meal, you'd go on a walk, you'd do this or that. There's chores you had to do. If you worked in a farm, you're always moving, right? Like there was always something to do. You were always moving. And that's one of the big differences. Now we sit in our office, for 8-10 hours a day, however long, with minimal movement. You get home, you eat, and then you sit and watch Netflix, right? And then we expect our body to function properly.
And to know how to continue to move and continue to be strong. Yes.
Exactly. And the earlier we do all of these things, the earlier we get into these habits, the better it's going to be later in life, right? Because like you said, it all starts a lot sooner. Not when you're 70. That's not when this plaque buildup or this high blood pressure or this high blood sugar, insulin issues started causing inflammation. They started much earlier. So if we can try to help those things when we're younger, it just becomes a lot easier as we get older, and we don't have to work at it as hard because our body, it's amazing. Again, it remembers, it knows how to do exercises. It knows how to respond to different stimuli. Just like, for example, when we eat something, right? It's not once we swallow it and it gets into your stomach that the body reacts. It's the moment that it touches your lips, your tongue, right? Those receptors on the tongue that taste. It starts sending the signals to already say, okay, this is sweet. Hey, we're going to need the pancreas to get working. We need this insulin to start going up because we know the blood sugar is going to go up too. We need the biles to start producing because we're starting to eat. Like all these things are happening before we even swallow that food, whatever that is. And so it's amazing at how well your body knows. Same thing with exercise. If you start to exercise, the body knows, okay, this is what's happening right now. It knows, the good inflammation that it's going to happen. We need inflammation for workouts. That's part of what happens. But the body knows how to react to it and how to recover from it. And the muscle fibers themselves remember these things and they're better at responding. So we have better response to our exercises. Whereas if you've never done anything, right, you can't expect to go from 0 to 100 and be okay. You're not. You're not going to feel good either.
And you're going to quit, probably, right? Because,
and it's like in the beginning of the year, right? Like you haven't done anything for years and you're like, oh, I'm going to start working out. You go to the gym, you see Johnny next to you. He's doing these huge weights, or Sally, she's like bench pressing. You're like, oh yeah, I can do that. You do it. And the next day you're dying. You're like, oh my God,
I can't move.
It's like, you got to take it slow. Let your body one step at a time. You're going to be a little sore. That's good. But
I think about like middle school science when we learn like an object in motion stays in motion. And I feel like that is like the best way to describe exercise and your body. Like you have to just keep your body moving.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom always told me, she's like, I have to keep moving because if I stop moving, I might not start again.
Exactly. Yeah. And talking about dopamine and serotonin that you get from working out.
Exactly. Yeah. And working out resistance training is also how we make hormones like testosterone. If you want to make testosterone, you got to work out.
You got to work out.
Yeah. We all start to lose it around age 30. For women, it's a little bit faster process than for men, but unfortunately, we all do start to decrease it. If you want to maintain it and make more, you got to work out. You got to reduce inflammation. You got to sleep right. You know, you have to move. Yeah.
And like what you had mentioned in the beginning, our heart's a muscle. What does muscle need? Movement and working out.
Exactly. And I always tell patients, I'm like, if you notice that you have decreased muscle, like in the periphery, same thing's happening to your heart. We just don't notice because it's all up in there and we can't see it. And later on, we might start to notice, right? Like palpitations, just can't go up a flight of stairs now. Like all of these things become so much harder because, unfortunately, like the rest of the body, unless you're conditioning it and working it out and keeping it healthy, it also breaks down.
So what can we do like on the hormone front to help keep our heart healthy?
Yeah, so both low testosterone and low estrogen and actually low progesterone all have been associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. So, and they work in different ways. Since we were talking about muscle, we'll start with testosterone. Testosterone is essential for keeping, maintaining lean muscle mass. If you don't have enough testosterone, I don't care how much you're trying to work out, what you're eating, you're not going to be able to put on lean muscle. Like you need it for that. That's just unfortunately how it is. But if you have testosterone is what helps keep that lean muscle nice and healthy and working. Well, our heart is a lean muscle. It is the most important lean muscle in the body. So there are studies showing that men and women with low testosterone have an increased risk of heart failure. Like you mentioned in the beginning, heart failure is just weakening of the heart muscle. Basically, there's different types of like heart failure, either left side or right side, and they both not good. A lot of times they both come with things like shortness of breath, uh, more edema, especially in the periphery. So like our ankles, things like that. Their lungs can really be affected by it as well in both instances, right? One, because the lungs have to work harder in some cases to get the blood flow back into the heart, and then sometimes the heart is having a hard time squeezing. It becomes kind of like a deflated balloon. You try to squeeze it and it just kind of sits there and has a hard time getting out to the rest of the body. The other parts of the testosterone is it helps you with synthesis of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a molecule that helps open up blood vessels throughout the whole body, and it's used also by estrogen. So they're both interconnected in that, but testosterone helps with making nitric oxide, especially, and it's throughout the body, right? Brain, everywhere. One of the normal places that we see it and why low testosterone can cause some ED issues, and why ED issues are also an early sign of cardiovascular disease is because we're having lower blood flow. Nitric oxide is very, very important when it comes to like getting an erection, maintaining an erection, all of that. That's nitric oxide that's made in the penis, basically, and stimulates that blood flow into it and helps with getting an erection and all of that. But if you don't have nitric oxide, you're not going to be able to get those effects. So that's why a lot of the patients notice, oh yeah, my testosterone's better. Oh yeah, okay. So that's working again. But same thing for women. We need it as well. We need it in our pelvic floor as well for, keeping blood flow all throughout there. But like I mentioned, also, of course, to our beautiful heart and brain. So we need that. And then estrogen, also, we have estrogen inside the lining of all the blood vessels and the endothelial lining of the blood vessels. That's also where we can see a plaque buildup. It's that same area there. But the estrogen receptors all throughout there help open up the blood vessels and close them, and also helps keep them nice and flexible. Those blood vessels should be really flexible to keep blood flow, up in our head. But estrogen is part of that. It helps keep that flexibility, or from becoming stenotic is the word that they'll use. Right? That just means that they have become stiff and they are not responding properly. That one reduces blood flow because now blood has to work harder to get through those blood vessels. And two, it can cause some of those symptoms of like lightheadedness and just brain fog too, right? All of those things. So very, 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 very important. And what we sometimes see, so in our perimenopausal women, we can start seeing those changes. So a lot of times women will come in with palpitations, for example. That's as patients, we would describe it as like your heart skipping, but it's really you have an extra beat, but that beat doesn't have enough electrical activity to squeeze the heart enough, so it feels like you're skipping a beat. And that's part because of those changes in blood flow to the heart that are happening from the lower estrogen levels. So during perimenopause, we start to see our estrogen levels really start to fluctuate a lot, getting really, really low and sometimes kind of high, but a lot of it is like the low levels of estrogen we're experiencing, and it can change every other day. Menopause, we lose our estradiol or E2. That's the main guy that's helping with all this blood flow. That's one of its main jobs, blood flow. And so we need that blood flow to function properly, keep our liver working properly. So our liver not only does it help clean everything, but this guy is also making cholesterol. And we need cholesterol. You need it because every cell in your body has cholesterol around it. That's how it's able to keep things in and out, helps with cell membrane integrity. It also helps for brain. Your brain uses, I believe it's like 25% of your cholesterol in your body, and it makes its own cholesterol, which is cool. But
Very cool.
it needs cholesterol to function, right? Our tears, they're a mixture of like salt water and cholesterol, so that way they don't just evaporate. That's what helps keep our eyes nice and moist. We need it on our skin. That's what helps with synthesis of vitamin D. So vitamin D, we get it from the sun as our primary source, and then into our skin via cholesterol. Then our liver, you need proper liver health, and then our kidneys, and then activated through magnesium. So it's a whole slew of things, but we need it for that too. So our myelin sheath, so that's the sheath that connects all the nerves inside our body and not only protects them, but also allows for proper communication. So it promotes faster communication instead of the signal having to slowly travel. It can like jump through the myelin sheath. It's really cool. But we need it for all kinds of processes, right? Most of your cholesterol is made by the liver. If your liver isn't working properly, if your liver doesn't have enough estrogen because of the stage in life we're in, whatever is going on, then we start to see that our LDL, it's known as like the quote unquote bad cholesterol, starts to go up, and the HDL, quote, good cholesterol starts to go down. Neither of them are good or bad. They have different jobs, and we need them both. They just have to be balanced, just like every single other thing in our body. It's all about that balance, but it's all made by cholesterol, and cholesterol needs cholesterol. Your liver needs estrogen to be able to function and work the way it's supposed to. So that is a common thing we start to see in women. We start to see that they're being told, hey, your cholesterol is high. And so what do? We give them a statin, when in reality, it's just like their hormones are off, right? And if we just help your hormones, then you won't need that statin. Yeah, exactly. Your muscles. There is a lot of controversy in all the things that statins do in the body. There's studies showing, so for someone that has had a heart attack and has plaque buildup, there can be some benefit in reducing another event from happening. However, there's nothing showing that it would be beneficial for someone that doesn't have a heart attack or any of that. If anything, it has been shown to increase the risk of heart failure because it weakens the heart muscle. And then there's also been associated with symptoms of like dementia. So if we can stay away from, extra medications that have all kinds of other side effects, let's try to do that.
I would say so, yes.
The other thing that happens during menopause is we start making a lot of a hormone called follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH. FSH is made by the pituitary gland. It's what signals basically from the pituitary gland to the ovaries and tells the ovaries to ovulate when we're still ovulating. It also tells our ovaries to make testosterone and estrogen, all of those wonderful things. However, when we're still ovulating, so before menopause, it fluctuates throughout the month, typically staying below 20 to 25, below that. So very small amounts, it's beneficial for all of that. But after menopause, that hormone goes really high. That's basically your brain sending distress signals to your ovaries. Give me eggs, give me hormones. And the ovaries are like, we're retired, leave us alone. Unfortunately, though, these high levels of FSH, which is also a hormone, do have other effects in the body, like increasing inflammation, increasing atherosclerosis, which is the plaque buildup in our arteries, increases the risk of insulin resistance, causes more oxidative stress in the body, which can cause increased risk of other things, not just uh, you know, cardiovascular disease, but even things like cancer, and rearranges adipocytes. So adipocytes are fat cells. That's why during perimenopause and into menopause, we start to see a shift in visceral fat. Visceral fat is normal. We need it. Just a little bit, though. It's what helps coat all our organs. It helps protect all our organs. However, that starts to become more and more as we get into perimenopause and menopause, or even in men that have low estrogen levels. We also have that, right? And so they see the same thing happen. And so that puts you at higher risk for developing cardiovascular disease. That is one of the measures that we use to measure whether you're at risk, where your risk is for cardiovascular disease. So again, it's all kind of interconnected there.
And what is this statistic about every time you have a hot flash, the greater chance of you having a heart attack as a woman?
Yeah, unfortunately. So if we think of what a hot flash is, it kind of makes sense that our risk is going to go up. So it's basically your blood vessels constricting, which one, decrease blood flow to your organs and increase blood flow to things like the head, right? Like in the chest. That's why most women will notice that their hot flashes, it's like they start right here in the chest. It's those blood vessels constricting. So that means your heart isn't getting quite enough oxygen to it and decreased blood flow to it. And we just have that surge of blood flow throughout our body. So the more hot flashes we have, that's increasing our risk of cardiovascular disease, which is horrible.
I know when anyone ever says just a hot flash, I'm like, it is not just a hot flash. I'm like, it is your body warning you of what is going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're bad. Like you have the people that just get a little flush to the ones that like, it's like the Hulk, but red, right?
I remember years ago, some lady was sitting in our lobby and a hot flash was happening. And to watch it, it was, yeah, it's incredible in the sense to watch it to then understand what's happening in your body. And women can live like this for years.
Yeah. On personal note, I've had really low estrogen levels in the past, and I would get really bad night sweats to the point that like my partner was like, I can literally feel it radiating. We're not touching. It was just my heat radiating towards him. And I would move the blankets, and you could feel the heat go just lift up from the blankets. It's wild. Um, and women have to change the sheets because they're just sweating so much. Like it's not good. It's not just a hot flash, and for some women, yeah, it's just maybe for like a year. There's women, and we see women all the time, right? They're 10, 12 years past menopause and they're still having hot flashes and night sweats. All of that's still happening. It's not going away. Um, let's see. So, other things I was um, pondering about that we might not associate with cardiovascular disease are things like osteoporosis. So, osteoporosis is most common in women after menopause, or really starts during perimenopause when we start to have those low levels of estrogen. And we see it after, but there have been studies, which is amazing to think about, that of the risk of cardiovascular disease for women that have osteoporosis. So, women with osteoporosis have a 4% higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease. And that's from the chronic inflammation, the low estrogen, low testosterone, improper calcium metabolism, and increase in arterial calcification, which is just buildup of calcium in your arteries, right? Um, so if you're already being told that you have osteoporosis, you may not be having the cardiovascular symptoms, but it's showing in your bones already, right? Um, what can you do? Hormones. We know hormones help with bone function. Testosterone helps you make the cells that make bone. Estrogen and progesterone make the cells that keep the bones from breaking down too fast and help keep all of that. Plus, calcium is very important. You can overdo it with calcium, so that's not necessarily a supplement I recommend for people, because too much calcium in the body can cause things like kidney stones or calcium buildup in the arteries, right? So most of your calcium ideally should come with food. It's the best way to get calcium, enough calcium. So like cheeses, yogurt, Greek yogurt's great. A whole milk if you can tolerate it. Some of us are lactose intolerant, but natural foods is really the best way to get your calcium. The other part of that is vitamin D. So vitamin D in your gut helps you absorb calcium. Um, However, if your vitamin D is really low, you're not going to be able to absorb that calcium, which then adds to the weakening of the bones. Vitamin D is also a hormone. Most people don't know that, but it is, and helps with inflammation, muscle health, bone health, even with our sleep, our immune system, uh, keeping us from getting sick. If we do get sick, it helps us get through it. It helps protect against cancer, all kinds of stuff. So don't get me down that little rabbit. But we need it for us to be able to just even absorb that calcium. And then making sure that if you are taking vitamin D, that you're taking with vitamin K2. K2 helps with the absorption of vitamin D, but it's one of its main jobs is to push the calcium into the bones. So it's in the bone and not in your kidneys and other places we don't want it. Magnesium is also very important for that. Magnesium, there's different types. So a lot of times we recommend the magnesium glycinate because magnesium glycinate helps activate vitamin D in the kidneys. But in the rest of the body, it can actually help with muscle relaxation, blood vessel relaxation. Has been shown to help with like blood pressure and even irregular heart rates. So very, very important. Most of our magnesium is inside of our muscle. So it's one of those, it's hard to measure because you'd have to do a punch biopsy of your muscle, which I don't recommend to anyone. We can see some of it in like blood. You can do blood levels, but they're not the most accurate. Typically, we're not going to see any issues until it's really low in the bloodstream. So just recommend like symptom wise, right? If you're someone that works out all the time, you're going to need some more magnesium. Your muscles use it a lot.
Or if you have headaches or migraines, sometimes that could be a symptom that you're low in magnesium as well. Yeah. I remember a few years ago, I should have looked it up before this, but I believe it was a rapper and he was about to have open heart surgery. Like he was having a regular heartbeat, just different heart issues, cardiovascular disease. And he was like, wait, like before I, get my chest cut open. Like, I want to figure this out. Long story short, he just needed magnesium. He was very deficient in magnesium, started taking magnesium and didn't have to have surgery. And of course, that's very extreme. But I just always think about like magnesium, vitamin D, like how powerful they can be when, that's not usually the first thing that people go to when it should be.
I know, absolutely. Yeah. And it's such a vital nutrient in our body for every single thing, like every single thing too.
Right. Isn't it like magnesium's like 400 different chemical reactions in your body or something like that? Yeah.
Every system. It affects every single system, from your kidneys to your brain, your heart, every single system in the body, the blood vessels themselves. You said, right? Like even vitamin D. So if your vitamin D isn't coming up, it might be your magnesium.
So I tell people about magnesium because people take it to sleep and it's great to sleep. One of the benefits, but I'm like, because it just naturally calms your body, which can help your body in so many different ways.
Exactly. Yes. And I just wanted to touch on like the exercise for the blood vessels. I think a lot of times we forget about the blood vessels. So you have the arteries, which take oxygenated blood from the heart to the body, and they have the pump, right? They have the heart. Your veins, though, they don't have a pump. That they don't work in the same. You actually, in order to keep your veins, which is what takes everything from the body back to the heart to get oxygenated, all that blood, you need muscles. Your muscles help squeeze those blood vessels. So that way the blood goes back up. You have tiny little valves, the muscles around it help kind of move that along. That's why a lot of times, like if you're flying, you'll start to notice, right? Like if you're just sitting in general, right? And you're not moving, you start to have more swelling around your ankles, because we need those muscles to be activated. So it's very important to keep moving, even if you're sitting, right? If you can, getting up at least every hour for a few minutes, stretching, moving, maybe doing some squats. I sit on a yoga ball, so I'll like at least like bounce up and down, move my ankles. But really, we should be just moving every hour, even if it's just for a little bit. Do some of your work, standing up for a little bit, stretch. All of those things are great for long-term cardiovascular and just vascular health in general.
Absolutely. And then if you like a quick benefit, it helps with focus because then you're back to what's happening with your heart and your brain.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah. If you have a window, staring out the window for a little bit, adjusting your eyes to look at something far away is also very beneficial for you, like your brain to just kind of like, oh, okay. And your eyes too. Poor eyes.
I know. Especially this day, I'm like, the screens are not good.
No. Have the built-in blue light blocking things in my glasses because I'm on it all day. So
I know. Because I wear contacts, so I've actually just ordered non-prescription blue light glasses because I'm like, I need them. And we could do a whole podcast on my thoughts on light bulbs. I think they're one of the worst things for us. And there's so much blue light in them. But if I'm flying at night, the lights in the airport and the lights in the plane destroy me. And I'm like, I don't know what this means about me. I don't know if it means I'm old or what, but I'm like, I need blue light blockers on. I need a hat. Like, I'm going to be one of those people now in the airport.
Yeah, they are really, really bad. Even the cars, I don't know what light bulbs they're using for cars nowadays. They're blinding.
Blinding. That makes me feel better because I thought, I'm like, am I like staring at them? I'm like, I'm not staring at them, but it's, yeah.
No, I will say I do have astigmatism, so it does mess with that. But when I see like cars with older light bulbs, it's not as bad. These new ones are they just hurt. I don't like them. Yeah, I don't turn the lights on in my office. That's another thing I do. I'm lucky to have nice windows, so I just get natural light from them. But even at home, I try to, minimize blue lights from those nasty light bulbs. I try to do little things like trying to minimize plastics. unfortunately, they're finding plastic inside our heart,
I think about that all the time.
right? It's crazy, which makes sense. Like the body doesn't know plastic. It's pretty new compared to how long
Very new.
humans
Exactly.
have
Yeah.
been around. So it doesn't know how to get rid of it. But yeah, in autopsies, they're finding microplastics in our heart, in our brain, throughout our body. So trying to minimize it as much as you can. Obviously, they're everywhere, but trying to minimize it as much as you can. Trying to eat just, less ultra processed food as much as possible, whether that's like cooking it yourself or even some of the programs they have out there will they'll like uh, give you all the ingredients and stuff that can be helpful to
It saves me.
absolutely, yeah. But trying to stick with like fresh fruits that we can identify, all of those things in the long run can be helpful. Of course, smoking, I think it's horrible for you. There's nothing good about it. I'm sorry for the smokers
Yeah.
out there. I don't mean to be funny, but there's just nothing good about it. So don't. Minimizing alcohol as much as possible, if at all. That also causes inflammation and in our gut as we get older. And women will notice that during perimenopause and menopause that we don't tolerate it as well. It's your body saying, "Hey, I can't handle this anymore." Same thing with like high sugar intake. Our body starts to not be able to tolerate it as well. And all of those things go back to inflammation in the body, right? Whether that's by increasing your insulin levels, insulin itself is very inflammatory in our body. And over time, it starts to cause cardiovascular disease. Um, the way I like to think about it is, for example, if you bite your cheek, right? Inflammation happens, it's swollen, and what's going to happen? You're going to keep biting it because it's swollen, right? Um, unless I like make an effort to like be gentle and not bite it. Otherwise, you just keep doing it. Same thing in our body. If we keep putting something that's inflammatory, it keeps irritating the same areas because we're not healing them, right? So when you think about plaque buildup, the reason inflammation causes plaque buildup is because it damages a small area of that blood vessel. And so your body actually sends things like cholesterol to patch it up. The cholesterol is there to put like a film over the irritated area so that when platelets come, which is what forms blood clots, they can just bounce off and keep on moving and they don't form a blood clot. And that's great. It's doing what it's supposed to. However, if you continue with the inflammation, that area keeps getting irritated. So what keeps happening? Cholesterol keeps coming, trying to patch it up. It's like, oh my goodness, these people, you're killing me. And sure enough, over time, more things like build up around it from white blood cells, from the inflammation as well, all these things. And eventually you end up with plaque buildup. And we blame cholesterol when really it was the inflammation in our body and those stimulus that we never removed that caused all of that. Cholesterol is just there to do its job and try to fix it.
And all of these things that you discussed to help protect your heart is going to make you feel better day to day too. By what you eat, working out, movement, sleep. And I think that's when sometimes you're like, yeah, okay. But once they start implementing those things, they're like, wait, I feel so much better. I think people forget how good you can feel, especially when you're like, say, comparing, like, well, everyone feels like this. And it's like, you shouldn't have to feel this way. You shouldn't feel brain fog and fatigue, achy. There's so many things you can do to avoid those things.
So like that's the biggest lie we're told, right? Like it's okay if you're just getting older, or well, you have a baby. Well, you're a CEO. Well, you work. It's like so does everyone else. Like,
Exactly. We're going to work for most of our lives.
yes, exactly. So why not make a good quality of life and do things that make me feel better rather than just have a long miserable life?
Exactly. And going back to, what you just discussed, I feel like it should be hopeful for people that there is so much that we can do to protect our heart and prevent cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes. I feel like so much of this can cause stress or uncertainty, but it is incredible. And I always talk about, like, selfishly, I am so thankful I work at Optimal Bio, because I'm like, one, I feel the best I ever have, but I'm like, two, every day I'm doing something to protect my body.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, you just have to. But it is, like you said, it is encouraging to know, okay, there are things I can do to help with my overall cardiovascular health, because there are so many things we have no control over. So why not take charge of the things we can, right? And those can be small steps, like literally small steps, go walk. Little things like that over a time will accumulate and really have a much better effect on the rest of your life.
Exactly.
This has been a production of Optimal Bio. Optimal Bio is CEO Tyler Brannon, Medical Director Greg Brannon, podcast host Tyler Brannon. The podcast can be found on our website, optimalbio.com, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Our theme song is Sunwave by Paradiso, provided by Epidemic Sound.